Hi Ocean Nation, it's been about a month since my last video. It's safe to say monthly uploads will be the norm on my channel. I have been struggling to figure out what I wanted to do next, but I decided to keep my promise of releasing OC lore videos. My other video idea was a little too self-indulgent if I'm being honest, plus I couldn't draw anything I liked for it, but overall I decided that this one that I'm filming and you're watching right now is just gonna be the best bet, and also I'm really excited to talk about this topic. Before we get into that, I wanted to quickly thank you all for the support on my last video. It really means a lot to me, and I was so surprised to see all your comments. I hope you all will continue to watch what I have to offer. And I have changed my method of recording audio. I'm using a different pair of earbuds now, so hopefully it's less breathy. I know that was like the only thing with my last video that I was really disappointed with, and I'm glad that it's gonna be fixed now, hopefully. The topic of this video today, I wanted to introduce my two newish OCs, Selene and Cypress. I've been really interested in vampires lately, so when randomly doing some character art, I decided to work out a design of a female vampire who wears Mori K inspired fashion. I feel like this really cemented her in my brain as a memorable character. Selene was born from this random experimental art piece, and I really liked her design. Continuing my usual OC making process to accompany her, I made a werewolf, and his name is Cypress. His design was pretty generic and broad since, you know, he's a wolf, and I wanted to design a human form for him, but I got really stuck. I didn't know what I wanted to do with them together. Were they a couple? Friends? Enemies? I really had no idea, and I sort of struggled with my concepts for a bit, but fleshing out the characters individually helped me progress in their exploration. Selene Kurosawa is a 20-year-old Japanese-American vampire. She was a normal girl for most of her life. She immigrated to the US when she was 7 years old, and she grew up a huge fan of J-rock and J-fashion since her dad was in a band before she was born. She always dreamed of returning to Japan when she was older. She adjusted to life in America quite quickly, but always kept to herself. She'd get made fun of at school for dressing odd and talking weirdly. Her dad was a huge support system for her during these times. Until Selene was turned into a vampire at 15 by an older man in her life. She met him alone late at night after he had convinced her to. The traumatic experience led her to learn how to cope with her vampirism and the after effects of her assault on her own. She hated being a vampire, but she hated her assaulter even more. 5 years later, now a college student and an up-and-coming novelist, Selene has learned how to handle her hunger, but is more isolated than ever. She's convinced there's no one else like her, and she'll be forced to keep her secret for the rest of her life. Little does she know, a local werewolf has been watching her for some time. And some extra notes I made on the side. Due to her being a newly turned vampire, and the only one in her town that she's aware of, she tends to be naive about vampire history and adverse to other vampires in her rare encounters with them. She's extremely disgusted by blood outside of the context of eating. When she sees it, she becomes nauseous. And after getting turned, she became very distant from her parents, more specifically her dad, and now barely talks to them despite being once close to them. It's one of her biggest regrets in life, but she doesn't want them to find out that she's a vampire. Cypress is a 22-year-old indigenous Mexican werewolf. He was born a werewolf, coming from an ancestry of native Mexicans who resided in the original lands of his hometown. His family lives in a secluded house deep in the forest. It was passed on for centuries within his pack. He is a self-proclaimed human expert and is the most social out of his pack, though it's hard to break old habits since he grew up pretty isolated within the forest. He usually doesn't notice if he's doing something weird until someone tells him, which makes him seem socially awkward. Not fitting in at times makes him wish he could stay in his wolf form. He hates the way his human form looks and experiences extreme dysphoria. Cypress soon finds himself infatuated with a girl who rides the same train as him, a girl who doesn't smell like any other human or wolf he's met. He wonders who or what she might be. In my notes for him, he's particularly close to his grandmother, who told him tales of other supernatural creatures when he was younger. He was always the most curious about vampires since they seemed like an enigma to him. He's a hopeless romantic and strongly believes in love at first sight. The story takes place in the early 2000s. I envision the town they live in to be filled with large, dense forests and mountains, a fairly small population, and a tourist attraction because of its urban legends relating to the werewolf inhabitants. In regard to the town's hidden history, werewolves are the original owners, living peacefully for decades until vampires came to colonize the land. A war broke out over the territory, and in the end, the wolves got to keep their land, Cypress's family being the predecessors of these wolves. Vampires aren't really welcome in the territory because of this. Selene and Cypress are naturally enemies, but their relationship doesn't reflect that. They met on the train, they rode it every day, Selene for school and Cypress for jobs in the town. When Cypress finally builds up the courage to talk to her, he tries not to weird her out, not reveal himself as a werewolf, or the fact that he knows she isn't fully human. At first, of course, it's rocky. Selene isn't trusting of him right away, but she isn't exactly put off by him either. He isn't suspicious, and she can tell he doesn't have bad intentions. She's been closed off ever since being turned, and it was hard to let him in enough to actually be friends. It starts with just standing next to each other, making small talk about their days. It feels awkward from both sides. Selene is quiet and Cypress is rambling and oversharing. It carries on like this for about a month. Sai is desperate for connection, but he'd hate to push Selene's boundaries. Selene is so convinced she'll just ruin everything if they get closer, so she keeps him at arm's length. One night, Selene wanders into wolf territory when hunting for a feed. It's startling, but she finally doesn't feel alone in this town. She should be worried about the beast in front of her devouring a deer, but now she can't help but be enamored. They share a meal together in the moonlight and talk about their experiences as quote-unquote monsters. It doesn't take Selene long to connect the dots. The same amber eyes staring into her soul as the nights before, now during the busy train rides they share. She quickly confronts Cypress, and finally they are forced to become closer, break their boundaries, and connect on a deeper level than either of them expected. Even though Cypress is a loser in love, their relationship is pretty slow burn, full of yearning and acceptance as they both embrace their humanity and monstrosity together. Now this is low-key gonna be the ramble section and unscripted, so it might be a little like here and there. I just wanted to talk about some things that I forgot to write down. Selene is not like affected by the sun. I know that's a big thing with vampires, but I imagine that her being newly turned and maybe like the modernization of vampires and like, you know how species evolve and like change, like maybe there is a certain strand of vampire that isn't affected by the sun or as much as OG vampires, like firstborn vampires, like I don't know. I didn't state it specifically, but Cypress is a trans man. And his family is influential in the town. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're rich, but they do like have their own property in the woods and don't really have to worry about other people. They tend to be a very antisocial family, aside from Cypress, because he uses like his quote-unquote status to help others. And like I said, he is a more social person, or at least he tries to be a more social person. I'm still working on the lore for this universe, and world building is really exciting, but it also can be pretty hard since you're literally building a world from the ground up. Much is subject to change, but I really wanted to lay out their base concepts for you guys. Selene and Cypress have really encapsulated lots of my interests lately, so I'm pretty attached to them. This video was a little hard for me to write because of that, but I've enjoyed drawing them and will continue to draw them. So I hope you like them, like as much as I like them. To kind of start closing out the video, I wanted to talk about the art that is currently being played on screen. I really have been drawing a lot of character interactions between them. Lots of different things. Some of them aren't even included in this video. This is the most recent piece that I've worked on and the centerpiece of this video. I just really want there to be tender moments, but also like it's still a story about vampires and werewolves and all that kind of stuff. So most of the time I'm letting my edgy middle school self like come in and I'm kind of just like, guys, let's draw blood and stuff. I don't know. Like I feel like a lot of the moments between them will be kind of romantic and interesting, and so I'm excited to continue exploring that with my art. Let me know in the comments below. Any questions you might have are welcome. It really helps me out to know what kind of content you guys want to see from me. More OC videos, maybe art challenges that you guys see, like pretty much anything. I'm open to all. YouTube has been a good outlet for me, so I'm really excited to post more. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And until the next video, bye Ocean Nation.